is overwhelming if you don't have a plan and you don't have someone holding you accountable. It's easy to be like, I can do it next week. I can do it next week. And then it's been 6 years and you're like, crap, I was supposed to get that done, but it was never the focal point, especially when you're trying to pay bills and you're trying to, be super mom. You're supportive of it, which is nice because he comes home and he's not like, where's my dinner? Where's like, how come the house is a mess? He's like, cool. I'll take care of the dishes. You go get those chapters done that you've been waiting 3 days to do.
That's great. Yeah.
Which is nice. This is my writing space. So you'll get to see a little bit like, this is my murder board.
That's awesome.
Of all of my characters, my developmental editor, my new one, suggested I print off actors that remind me of my characters and put them up. And that's so been game changing because I can just look at them and be like, well, what do you think about this? And then I've got like a timeline and all the important stuff. In writing a series, if you're going to write a series, like write the important stuff in a book Bible as you're writing book one. Don't write book one and then go back and try to figure it out because it's a lot of work.
Your cover is wonderful. And I see that did you not do it yourself in Canva?
I did.
Yeah, and it's amazing.
Yeah. I did it in Canva as I was procrastinating, finishing the final edits on the book. So
you got super lucky because you had a friend who provided a marketing plan.
I did.
Yeah. So that is such a help. And you didn't actually get to the pre-marketing part of it, but you followed other things, right? On the plan?
I did.
Okay.
So we sat down and she's the one who's like, I called her one day and I was like, I am never going to get this book published because I'm trying to balance being a great mom to my 2 kids. I had a full-time job at the time teaching jujitsu. I'm now not as full-time, but I was like 40 to 60 hours a week at that job. And then trying to write. And I'm like, writing always gets put on the back burner. I had a full meltdown. I called her. I'm like, this is never going to happen. I don't know why I bother. She's like, you're publishing it in October. I'm like,
I am? That's right. Yeah. She gave, yeah.
So she was very much like, if you want to do this, we're going to do this. And we sat on the phone and we wrote out a like week by week plan, which was phenomenally helpful. Without that, I don't think I ever would have published it because it is overwhelming if you don't have a plan and you don't have someone holding you accountable. It's easy to be like, I can do it next week. I can do it next week. And then it's been 6 years and you're like, crap, I was supposed to get that done, but it was never the focal point, especially when you're trying to pay bills and you're trying to, be super mom.
You've got so many hats, right? Like, yeah. And I'm assuming because your husband being in the military, there's a lot of points when you are single parenting for a span of time, right?
Yeah. He's currently home, but he's an instructor. So his hours can vary from like, he's home in the afternoon till he's not home for 4 days. I don't know when he's coming home. He can let me know like, hey, it's going to be a late night, but that doesn't help me in planning to get the kids where they need to be, to get dinner done, to, all that stuff. So it's just, it was a lot. And he's super supportive. He's 100% supportive of the writing, which is also really nice. Spouses who are like, this is a waste of time. You're not making any money. Go get a real job.
Yeah.
It's not always about the money. Sometimes it's about the mental health. You like to play video games. I like to play games with people on paper. Like, what's the difference?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, that's a good perspective, right? Like you like to spend your time doing this and I like to spend my time doing this. And there's something to be said, we always hoist up and rightfully so, members of the military, like, thank you for your service. Thank you for everything you've done, your commitment to the country. And because it's enormous, like that is such a selfless act, but we also have to say thank you to the families behind it who are also supporting members of the military and who are allowing them to go, not allowing, but creating an environment where they can go and leave their kids behind if they have children in the care of their spouse. And so hats off to you too. So thank you for your service because it's a whole like,
the whole job.
yeah, exactly. It's a whole job. And I mean, caregivers like are often the ones that, so it doesn't matter if like let's call you a caregiver to a military husband, right? But the caregiver often gets overlooked. If someone has a chronic illness, the caregiver is secondary, but they're often pulling the most, like, all the busy work behind the scenes. So hats off to you, because it's a lot. It's a lot. And there are
It
huge,
is.
yeah, periods of time when you are completely solo, because it's not like you can call and be like, oh my gosh, so and so threw up and the other one is crying, you have to come home now. Well, I can't. I can't. So you have
Yeah.
to deal with it. Yeah.
And we're far from home. Our home is in Connecticut. So our family's in Connecticut. Now you have some friends here, but it's not the same as being able to call your sister and be like, hey, send my niece over. Like our friends have their own families and their own kids and their own, we have tribes, but it's not the same as being home with family.
Yeah.
So it's different for sure.
Just
But he's
just
super
as, yeah.
supportive of it, which is nice because he comes home and he's not like, where's my dinner? Where's like, how come the house is a mess? He's like, cool. I'll take care of the dishes. You go get those chapters done that you've been waiting 3 days to do.
That's great. Yeah.
Which is nice.
So just as because curiosity, and I like to see what's behind the writers, like writing and just their regular life. So when you are in Japan, do you find, because you're on the base there, right? So do you find that there's more of a pool of help with things because you're living in sort of a different environment?
Yeah, so we're currently in North Carolina. We're going back to Japan in July.
Mm-hmm.
But when we were in Japan, there is a pool, like the military family programs are very helpful because they have a lot of activities, they have things like that. But as a people, like we have to be friendly. Otherwise, you're just miserable. And I made some of my best friends out in Okinawa, and I'm excited to go back. And some of them are actually going back at the same time as me, which is
That's wonderful.
like we're moving together. And it's different because you can just be like, hey, bring your kids over. I don't want to see you, but bring your kids over because your kids will keep my kids busy so I can get stuff done. And vice versa. You can be like, hey, let's like go to your house and write. That's a lot of my writing got done in Oki because of that vibe of we're going to sit down and ignore each other while our kids play, and you're going to do your thing and I'm going to do my thing. And there was no expectation to be like, let's gossip, let's, catch up. Why are you not paying attention to me? You have to find those people and like hold on to them tight and hope they don't move.
Yeah. And one last question, just because I'm fascinated about this, and I'm sure other people have questions, and because we're writers, so I like to set the scene in my head. What do you take with you? Like, I'm assuming you don't have like one home in the States that you just leave empty, right? Or
no, well, we don't. We live on base. So when we live here, we just pack up our house and hope it fits in the new house that we're moving to. And we're actually literally in the moment, like going through each room and writing, keep it, sell it, store it, because some things we're keeping with us, some things we're putting in storage here, and other things we need to get rid of. But I told my husband, this awesome like back area. I came home from work one day and he had built this for me because I was like, I think I want to start doing podcasts. And he's like, well, you need an office. And we're in the guest room in the corner, but this writing space that he created for me has been phenomenal. And I told him, like, this has to come. I don't care where we put it in the new house. Like, this is my writing space. So you'll get to see a little bit. Like, this is my murder board.
That's awesome.
Of all of my characters. My developmental editor, my new one, suggested I print off actors that remind me of my characters and put them up. And that's so been game changing because I can just look at them and be like, well, what do you think about this? And then I've got like a timeline and all the important stuff. Because when writing a series, if you're going to write a series, like write the important stuff in a book Bible as you're writing book one. Don't write book one and then go back and try to figure it out because it's a lot of work.
It sounds like it's a lot of work. Yeah.
To be fair, though, I did not know I was going to write book two when I wrote book one.
Right.
Book one, I was like, it's a standalone. I'm going to move on to something else. And then I finished book 1 and everyone's like, where's book 2?
You're like, oh man, okay. So you
Like,
had
what
to
do you
go
mean
back
book 2?
and create your Bible after.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm still working on it. I 100% do not recommend. Just do it the first time.
Just in case, right? Like, I mean, it's not that much extra work. You're just like, okay, I'm going to just,
No.
make a note here or there. Because you don't know. You won't necessarily, some people start and they're like, this is going to be a series and I'm just going to keep going. But others, like, they may think like you, like it's a standalone, and then all of a sudden it becomes a series. So just, that's a good practice. Just, have your,
just write a book Bible the first time as you're writing, so you don't have to go back. Like, we time jump a little bit in book 2. Book 3 will be out, and it's actually going to be a prequel to book 1. We're going to talk about the parents of Aaron and Luke and what happened and how they got to where they are. And then I've written book 4 in my head. So like the legacy has become its own universe, which I'm super excited about. I'm really happy to be in it. But like I needed a timeline of like, when did they die? When did they join the legacy? When they joined Legacy Inc., the Alliance, which you haven't heard of yet. It's in book 2. When did they join the Alliance? Like time-wise. So when I get super famous and I have super fans and they're like, but book 1 doesn't match with book 2, because I don't want that.
Yeah,
I want it all to make sense.
And you'll be like, and here's my Bible. But I mean, it did totally lend itself to a book 2, because with a name like The Legacy, one expects that there's going to be, right? So
I don't know.
Yeah,
what
like
I was thinking.
I was like, oh yeah, The Legacy. And already I was like, oh, The Legacy. Like, so excited about this. I love sort of secret societies. I love the whole concept of that, of a cabal of whatever you're doing. And I have often said to my husband, like, I so wish that we could have some sort of secret society. And he's like, you'd be but
society.
Right. But he's like, you'd be the worst because you have no filter. And you'd be like, want to join my secret society? And he's like, and the cover's blown. So, but I've always been fascinated by like the Masons. Please don't send out any, I don't know if you have like secret assassins that are like, don't talk about the Masons, but I've had sort of like family, like not necessarily like a first line family, but distant family that have been in the Masons. I'm like, tell me. And they're like, I can't, this is part of it. I'm like, why? And there's a building, the Rosicrucians. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're a society of some sort. And I mean, you can look it up online and there's like a ton of stuff, but it's not the same as being there. So that I pass this building every other week and I'm like, the Rosicrucians, what are they doing? Like, I want to know. So the legacy really like, oh, whew, okay. You've already you got me right there. Because I just love that kind of stuff and what goes on and how these societies are created within our main society. And I mean, it happens all the time, right? Like if you look at my husband is first generation Canadian, and his parents always hung out with the Greeks of a specific part of Toronto. And so they created a sub society, and that happens all the time. Like you were saying, like you find your people on the base and you have a subset of a society on your base. And so you see it happen. But then when you add like some secret part to it, it becomes so much more fascinating.
It does. And I think I've always watched like James Bond, and I've been like, I love secret societies ever since I was little. And that really like translated into my writing, because I'm like, assassins and secrets, and like this is the life I wanted to live. Like I wanted to work for the CIA. I wanted to do all this stuff. And then like I changed colleges, met my husband, had kids, and then I was like, oh, I guess I'll just write about it.
Yeah. I have an anecdote just to add to your desire of secret society or of wanting to work for the CIA. So I worked as a technical writer, I was working on a project, and part of it was like top secret, right? And so our version of the CIA is called CSIS. It's Canadian some intelligence something, SCSIS. And people are going to be like, why don't you even know that? But I'll provide the description somewhere and definition right here for the viewers. So anyway, so we would have a CSIS guy, lovely, lovely. And his secret office, and I'm not even kidding you, was right beside my desk. So he would come and go carrying absolutely nothing. And I'm like, what do you do in there? And he's like, top level, you can't know. And I'm like, I am the wrong person to be sitting in this desk. So, you know, so he'd come, he'd go, he'd never carry anything. It was all very mysterious. He was so lovely. Like, he, obviously because I was like, what's going on today? And he'd be like, I can't talk to you about that, Amy. And so we got friendly just because of my, insistence to be told and always being rejected. So one day I noticed, because there was this tiny little gap under the door, and I noticed that he had left the light on by accident. And I was like, now is my time. So I waited until the office cleared out. I lay on the floor, couldn't see a thing. Because there must have been some sort of, right? Like, because I couldn't get, and I was so excited. I remember thinking, oh, I hope that light's not on a timer and I'm going to wait. And then I was so disappointed. And to this day, I have no idea what went on in that room. I have no idea, but it was so fun to be like that close. And I started looking up CSIS jobs. I was like, could I work for CSIS? Like,
yeah.
And they get paid really well, like really well. And I unfortunately in Canada, you have to be fluent for a lot of government jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not fluent in French. But I was like, I'll fake it until I make it, until I become fluent in French. But anyway, life took a different path. But so I totally, I'm right there with you. Yeah. It's
every like 3 years I look up CIA jobs. I'm like, I can do this. I actually was thinking about doing that, or FBI a few years ago, but the way my husband's current like track is, by the time he finished, in order for him to be available for the kids, I missed the deadline for the age by like 6 months.
that is
It's
hard.
fine.
That is hard.
It's fine. Not this lifetime, maybe the next one.
Yeah, right? I am a true believer in that as well. And anyway, you could live vicariously through your books to, you could be like, I'll pretend I'm an agent. Why not? Yeah.
What I do.
That's amazing. So if you could, I'm gonna actually display a picture of your cover for the viewers, but your cover is wonderful. And I see that did you not do it yourself in Canva?
I did.
Yeah, and it's amazing.
Yeah. I did it in Canva as I was procrastinating finishing the final edits on the book. You have to be careful with some of the copyright. Like I pay to use Canva, and so I get automatic copyrights on certain things. So I have like X amount of uses of a image, but you're not supposed to sell an image strictly by itself. So if you want to sell t-shirts, you can't just take an image, and from what I understand, you can't take an image and put it on a shirt and then sell it. You have to alter the image in some way to make it your own.
I think that's called.
So I did that.
Common something licensing. I'll have to find
Creative Commons license.
Creative Commons, yeah. See, all these things that you learn. I had to learn about the licensing too, because I was looking for a specific image for a logo for this channel. And I just had a stand-in Canva sort of stock thing for now. But we finally found one, and I had to purchase it. Like I had and make sure that I can use it. And so it's all these things that you have to, these tiny little tips and tricks. Yeah. But you did an amazing job, and it really hits all the marks, like for your book, right?
Yeah. For the book.
Yeah.
I will probably not make my next cover set. So the Assassin's Legacy covers, at least this one, and then Assassin's Sin, I'll send you a copy of that cover as well. Easy to do for me for book 2. You'll see why. You're like, oh, that's so genius. Yes, I know. But in the future, I probably will not, because it does take a lot of time, and I'm not a cover artist, and I just played around with it and got lucky. But I will probably pay somebody to do future ones, because
you'll be making the money.
I want them to look professional, and I'll be making 6-7 figures.
Yeah.
So
whatever. You'll have a team. Like, hello, I don't have time for this anymore. I got to sign autographs. So
you do my newsletter, you do my cover, you do my edits.
Yeah,
I can support a whole team. That's the goal, is that I can pay other people and support them the way I've been supported. So
it's, yeah. And I don't see how it's not going to happen because of how it's just such an exciting book. It really, so far,
thank
I mean,
you.
like I said, I haven't been able to finish it, so don't disappoint me. No, so, I'm kidding. But I can't
I'll get
imagine
the
that.
4 a.m. text message when you get to a certain
Yeah.
part that everyone texts me at, and they're like, "How could you?" It's
Um,
4 a.m.
yeah, it's the it's just so good. Like that's all I'm going to say. It's just so good, and it's so good. So I'm really, really excited to finish it and really excited about the second one. So I'm hoping that when you have the second, sorry, I keep like flipping my page. It's a bad habit. I have to stop it, but it makes me feel very official. Well, like an official host. I'm like, let me just write that down. But I do. I mean, everybody who's watched this when it finally goes up
I
will
love
know.
it.
I often show all the notes that I take while each writer is talking, because everybody, like I said before, brings such a wealth of knowledge, um, and I just like to compile it. And I don't know what I'm going to do with all these notes. Some of it will go for the YouTube portion, will go down in the description below, like to remind people that, like, especially about this beta books, like that's fantastic, didn't even know it existed. So those sorts of things will be down in the comments along, or in the description, along with obviously a link to your book, because that's the most important part of this entire project, is that we're getting you guys, your books out there, as well as inspiring people to be like you. So I would love to have you again, if you would be willing to talk about,
Definitely.
the next book, the things that have changed between the two, an update. So one thing that we haven't touched on, and if you're not comfortable, how much should one budget if they've decided to go with a narrator?
Like $4,000,
Yeah. Okay. Write that down.
something like that.
Yeah. So you have to save
It
up.
depends.
Yeah.
They pay on ACX, because that's where I have my experience. They can do a royalty share, or you can just pay up front. We did a pay up front, which means I pay per finished hour. So not how many hours he put in, but how long my book is per finished hour. So it was like 13 hours.
Yeah. I would assume
And
that it would have been
so
about 13 hours. Yeah.
I don't remember the exact price that I paid him. Yeah, I don't remember the exact price. It's been a while, but it was like X amount of money per finished hour. And that was what we agreed upon. He's more expensive this time around, as he should be, because he's phenomenal. He's got more experience. And but there's people like, it was like $100 per finished hour. Okay, so $1,300, like that's not a bad deal. Or up to like $400 per finished hour. It depends on their experience. Do a little research. Do they have other books out? If they're on ACX, they usually have a like a list of all the books that they've narrated, and you can listen to them and see if like the vibe is something you're looking for. And then like if it's their very first book, I probably would not be paying someone $350 per finished hour if this is the very first one you've ever done, because I don't know what your output looks like.
Right.
So those are all things to consider. But I would budget definitely a couple $1,000s. 3 to 4,000 to just kind of cover bases and all that. It should, when you upload your manuscript based on word count, they can kind of give you an estimate about how long it's going to be. Mine ended up being a little bit shorter than their estimate, which I think was like 14, just under 14 hours. And he had it done in 13.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's great
his reading
information.
pace was.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's a whole other thing, right? Like it's another aspect to the publishing, and it's not something everybody does, but I applaud you that you did it because of the accessibility, right? So you just so happen to have people who don't read, but it's wonderful to have this technology for maybe like the visually impaired, or someone who has dyslexia, or it can't read for whatever reason.
That was like the back reason. The first reason was I wanted to hear it myself. The second reason was I wanted my sister, who doesn't read, to hear my book, because she's a big supporter of mine. And then the third reason was when my kids were younger, I couldn't read. There was like a 4.5 year period where I did not pick up a book
Mhm.
because I couldn't, because I had toddlers and babies on me. But I could listen to audiobooks because they were too young to understand anything that was coming out of the audiobook in much detail. So I spent 4 years listening to audiobooks, and I wanted to be able to give that to other moms or just to other people who have long drives. Like when I went to my undergrad, the school was an hour away. You know how many audiobooks I listened to on my
Yeah.
drive to and from school 5 days a week? I wanted other people to have that too. And then
Yeah.
also like just accessibility in general. Everyone should have that.
Yeah. I'm thinking of a dear family friend. He's since passed, but he had macular degeneration, and towards the end, he couldn't read at all. Right. So
Yeah.
he started off with this enlarger. Again, in Canada, I don't know so much about down there, but like we have it. We have this CNIB, so it's the Canadian. I'll provide the definition because I can't remember it, what it all stands for, but it's definitely got Canada in there, I think, and blind. So so and they provide like visually impaired people with technology. And so they actually have readers. You can volunteer your time to go in and read the newspaper, and then they distribute the audio. And so anyway, so he started off with an enlarger. I'm not sure if he had to pay a deposit for it. But then eventually his sight completely made it impossible to read. And so he switched to audio content, and it allowed him to continue to participate in activities that he loved. Right. So
Yeah.
it's yeah. And again, like if you have a learning difference, like dyslexia or some sort of cognitive issue or like a processing disorder, then this helps. So I applaud you that you've done it, because I think, because I'm a real champion for making things as accessible as possible for a variety of reasons. I think it's crucial, and to help out our fellow person is
Yeah.
really what we should be doing in life. So that's my soapbox talk for now. So
I
I
love
thank
it.
you
I'm
for doing that.
completely on board with it.
Yeah, it's very important. I don't like when people are excluded from things just because of means or ability or whatever. I think it's a very difficult position to be in. And anyway, so thank you for doing that. Yeah. So it truly, I mean, not for me, but for everybody who can now access your
Yeah.
fantastic story. So, and is it available now? Like, can people
Oh, the
download it?
audiobook, yeah. He finished it in like 4.5 weeks. Like we had it out. Like my book was published in October. I like immediately started looking for it, and then by Christmas he had it finished and it was out. So it's been out for about a year.
And
You can go
on
out. It's on Audible.
Audible. Okay, excellent. And I'll
Yeah.
get the link too for that. So, okay, excellent. Okay. Hey. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time. You have been a wealth of knowledge and such a great story. And maybe next time we talk, you'll be back in Japan, and I can live vicariously through you there. You can like point out the window and be like, that's the Japanese sky. And I'll be like, oh yeah, I've been there. So
Just come out and visit. It'll be
yeah,
fun.
yeah. I one day I have to get there. I've it's on my bucket list, and I'm hoping that it'll happen. So enjoy every second of it for me,
I
please.
will.
Um, and again, thank you for sharing your knowledge, for taking the time, for being such a wonderful writer, for being a wonderful human being, and for helping inspire other people with your story. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. This has been fantastic. I love
Okay,
helping other people and I love sharing. So
excellent. Thank you.